It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. Today, my guest is CEO Daryn Fillis. Daryn became the CEO of Distroller USA in 2008, following a 20-plus year track record of launching profitable businesses and business units. Distroller is a retail entertainment company bringing to life experience-based concepts with art and design at its core and spreading good vibes for ages 0 to 102. With a passion for retail and design, Daryn has found his niche with Distroller stores in San Diego and Houston and will be leading the brand into further national expansion. Daryn Fillis, welcome into the corner office.
Thanks, Brant. It's great to be here.
Wonderful to have you here as well. Well, we like to kind of always start with hearing a little bit about the early years. What can you tell me about kind of where you grew up and what your family life was like?
You know, I grew up on this little, like a working farm in terms of, it's a really interesting story, actually. I moved to Northern California. I was just 6 months old. My mom and dad were from Southern California. My dad was in the Navy for 20 years, got out, had me, and they decided they didn't want to live or raise me in Los Angeles or in the Los Angeles area. They were in the Valley. So they bought this 20-acre piece of land in Grass Valley, California. And
is that in the East Bay or whereabouts is that?
No, it's Grass Valley is on your way to Truckee.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah,
kind of out 80. Up 80, and then off another highway, 174 or Highway 20. It's in the sticks. It's really there's nothing out there but grass and rocks and trees, which is amazing. Actually, looking back on it, it was an incredible childhood. So my early childhood, my parents bought this piece of land. It had a couple of ponds. They would stock it with bluegill and trout. And I had a dog and, that whole thing. And we had cattle and horses and goats and chickens and turkeys. And my mom got some other exotic animals over the years. And they built a feed store.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
This feed store was the supply store for all of these little micro farms around, Grass Valley, Nevada City, Penn Valley area. So I was immediately introduced to commerce. Right away from a very, very young age. Some of the first photos I have are me helping my dad carry sacks of feed. He would carry the 50-pound sacks, and I would take the 3-pound sacks because I was 3 years old.
Yeah,
I had my cowboy boots on and my chaps, and I had my own little kit, and that was my childhood, roaming around this farm with my dog. And dealing with customers. My mom would make chili for everybody in the winter, so when they came in and there'd be coffee, I was introduced to customer service.
Yeah,
it's what I know. That part of my life was really influential.
So mom and dad were partners in the business. They both worked it.
Yeah, they worked it. That's what they did. They built this thing, and that was our revenue.
Big change from the San Fernando Valley.
Oh yeah, no, huge change. And it was really cool. I mean, I look back on it today, and it's fascinating. We had we ate everything we planted.
There's
the animals that
farm
were there.
Fresh. Before you use the term.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, it really very formidable years.
Brothers and sisters?
I'm the youngest of 5.
The youngest of 5.
And
wow.
but way younger. So I am definitely the accident child.
I'm one of those too, Daryn.
My mother always says she wished upon a star, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know, Mom. You say that so much, it's like you're trying to sell me on something.
So
I'm the
the older
youngest.
kids, were they off the farm by the time you moved up?
My brothers David and Danny. My brother David's 14 years older than me, and Danny's 16 years older than me.
Oh,
So
wow, that is a big gap. Yeah.
Yeah, they were there for a little while. So I was, basically an only child, if you look at it in terms of, growing up.
Yeah. So what were some of the lessons that mom and dad taught you in those early years?
The value of working hard. It was, we're out. I mean, like I said, we're in the sticks. I mean, this is, middle of Northern California, rural Northern California. You want to eat, you're going to work. And it was the work of literally feeding ourselves, and then also working to have a business, to make the payments and for cars, and very, very simple lifestyle.
Did mom and dad run that business pretty much all through your school years?
They ran that particular business until I was 5 or 6, and they sold it, and we moved to another rural community called Chicago Park, and there my dad got a job in Sacramento, so he commuted like an hour and a half every day there and back. And my mom, and there was actually an apple orchard, and we had all the horses and all the other animals. And my mom was breeding. She was breeding animals and selling them, kind of like agriculture and that the animal part of the farm and whatnot. So we had that. We always had our own business growing up, whether it was, the feed store when I was very little, or, that. And then it grew into something else. She started raising exotic cats, Persian cats, like high show quality cats, and she'd sell them for $4,000 or $5,000 a pop all over the world. And we had other businesses as a family. My dad ended up quitting the job that he was doing, and we opened up another business in another town. And we always had stores. We're always selling to people. I was always around that.
It sounds like both mom and dad were entrepreneurs.
Yes, absolutely. Mom is the entrepreneur, really. I think my dad, being a military guy, was used to kind of following her lead. It's kind of funny because we tease each other about it, obviously. But she was the visionary of what to do, what people wanted. She was the buyer. And my dad was the guy that, took care of the books, and he did the, very good at customer service. He did all the physical manual labor stuff. But if you were to look like the structure of the business, mom was the visionary, and my dad was the.
I love the chili story during the winter. One of our clients in the Bay Area is Kelly Moore Paint. And one of the ways they got established early on back in the 40s and 50s when they got going was they opened a half an hour early than every other paint store, and they served hot coffee. And those two, free, right? And those two things really enamored most of the painting suppliers and the contractors, rather, throughout the valley and San Francisco Bay Area. And for obvious reasons, they've really established that as the painter contractor's painter. I think that's actually one of their selling ideas. Those types of things really make a difference. Did you have a pretty loyal, or do you remember having being a pretty loyal consumer base or customer base?
I mean, yeah, but I don't know if it was so much for, honestly, looking back and thinking about it as you asked the question, if it was because, the great customer service that they gave, and they gave a really good customer service. It's very friendly. These people came in, it's like cheers, everybody knows your name. And I remember that. Also, there was a captive market. If you look at what we were doing in all the businesses that I was, witnessing as I was growing up, there really wasn't competition. And that was another thing that I think that they identified. It's small business, and they're selling supplies or selling other knickknacks or bringing other things to the town that you really couldn't go anywhere to get it because we're so
no one
remote.
else was doing it. Yeah. Right.
So they,
differentiation
for the Internet of Things, they were bringing convenience to the little town.
That's great. What about your student life? Were you a good student in school?
I was a good student. It's funny as thinking about that. Going back and thinking about my life as a young student, I didn't really try hard. And I think it was because I don't know what it was, but I didn't have to work really hard. I would do my homework in class. Like I didn't want to take my homework home with me. I would just do it. at school, and I was good. I got straight A's all through, all my schooling, and the 4.2s or whatever in high school, and but I think it was also because of where I went to school. I went to school in Northern California in this little town, and at the time that I went, it wasn't incredibly hard. I would actually say that I wasn't very well schooled, but there was other things that developed my youth that I would never exchange. So I don't want to be too critical of my education, but I got a reality check when I went to university. Like, I don't know anything. It was really hard for me to catch up to the other kids. That first year was a struggle.
What were some of the things you were doing outside of class during your earlier years? Any sports, music, theater,
I was
those types of things?
very active. My parents my mom tried to get me to learn piano, so I took piano lessons for a couple of years when I was 5, and then I would just play around with it. Actually through until I left the house to go to school, I would always play around on the piano. But I'm definitely not a good musician. I was a very good baseball player. That's what I would do, and I to this day, it's my favorite. If I have an opportunity to pick up a bat and hit the ball, I really love that. I played basketball, and I played baseball, played American football. I say that because I live in Mexico, so I'm used to saying American football instead of soccer.
Right. Soccer, yeah.
So I played football and for a little while, but baseball was my passion. I was in the Boy Scouts, loved hiking and fishing and camping and all those scouting activities as well.
Make it to Eagle Scout?
I didn't. It's kind of weird. That's one thing I wish I had done. And if I ever have a son, that's one thing I would, encourage him to follow through on. I was so close. I was like 2 merit badges away, and I stopped because I was playing football, and it wasn't cool to be a Boy Scout.
Right.
I fell into that peer pressure thing at high school. Like, you're like, it's not cool. And, I didn't really know a lot of kids when I went into high school because we merged like 2 middle schools to our high school. And my middle school was very, very small. So, I was kind of like this, odd kid out, and I'm playing football, and the kids are making fun of me, for being a Boy Scout. And so I just quit. So, I wish like I said, if I have a boy and he's interested in that, I'd really encourage him to follow through just to complete something. I think it's very important.
During your early years, were you involved in some entrepreneurial things beyond mom and dad's business?
Not really. I mean, I had to work, with them and, to help with what we were doing. And, I worked a cash register at a very, very young age. My dad taught me how to count back change. I mean, we didn't have a cash register that told you how to do it. You had to count it back, and those skills were, I still have them. Those are very important lessons at a young age. But outside of that, I really didn't. I didn't do my own entrepreneurial endeavors. I mean, my brothers have a lot of stories of the fun things they would do to make money, and I grew up listening to those fun escapades. But I never went outside of what we were doing as a family to earn money.
Was it kind of a foregone conclusion that you'd go on to college?
Yeah, I really looked to, and it's interesting because neither one of my parents had gone to college. My dad, like I said, my dad was in the Navy for 20 years, and my mom had 4 other kids before me, and she was busy with that. But all of my brothers went to college. Well, my sister didn't, but my brothers went, and I knew that that's what I was going to do. I was in constant, even though they were gone, I was in constant contact with my brothers, and they were always encouraging me to study and get good grades, and explaining the importance of school and continuing my education.
Yeah, so you're motivated. How did you pick a major and decided what you wanted to go into?
Well, I was actually a really good art student in high school, and I really started to pick up on replicating photos using the pencil medium of marine life. And I was fascinated by marine life. And I didn't grow up near the ocean, but I would go to the ocean maybe once or twice a year because my grandmother lived in Los Angeles, and we'd always go to the beach. And I was always enamored by the ocean. So I thought that I wanted to be a marine biologist. I got my senior project was I'm certified in scuba diving, and I had to talk about that process in Monterey Bay. And I just thought that that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what it was. my guidance counselor in high school. I don't even remember having a conversation with her about it, honestly. So I applied to UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Santa Cruz because I just thought that since those were the UC schools on the coast, they would have a marine biology program. And I got accepted, and I chose UC Santa Barbara because my brother Randy went there. So, and he studied biology, and he always told me they had an amazing science program, a biology program. And I did some research, and they had there's some marine studies. And so when I got there, I took all my undeclared bio stuff, biology and chemistry and calculus and all this stuff, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And even though I was very, very good at those things in high school, I mean, I was very good at those things, and I enjoyed them in high school. For some reason, at that age, I didn't find any enjoyment in that course of study. And so a friend of mine that was going there, he was studying law and society. He and I met each other because we're actually both going in as undeclared bio majors, and we became really good friends and roommates. So he quit right away. He's like, this is not for me. I stuck out the year, passed all the classes, and then my sophomore year, I'm like, yeah, I got to figure out what else to do. And I saw that I kind of liked what he was studying. It's social science and liberal arts, and I took a liking to that, and I switched my major to that, and did very, very well, and really enjoyed it. I was studying law and society, and I became captivated by it, and I think what it's done for me is it taught me how to learn, and it taught me how to teach myself. Those are things and I use that as a lesson to all the people that work with me, because, and I use it every day. I mean, I don't have a boss, right? My boss is the consumer, and it's what I do, my day to day. That's what tells me what to do. So you have to learn, and you have to learn how to learn quickly, and you have to know where to look for the right things to help you get through your projects and your challenges. So I'm really fortunate that I was able to, I had a friend that picked that, and I kind of followed his guidance. He went into law enforcement, that was one of the things, and I just went into business.
Yeah, cool. And did you work during your college years as well?
I did. I did. I worked full time at Pacifica Suites Hotel off of Hollister Avenue in
I know
Santa
where that's
Barbara.
Located.
Yeah, it's
Santa Barbara's
2 miles.
my home. I think you knew that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so 2 miles from the campus. Actually, one of my brother's best friends, Michael Ensign, got me that job. Mike was the assistant manager there, and I went in for an interview. I was 18 years old, and he said, "You want a job? You can have it. You just got to do this, this, and this." And he taught me the hospitality business, that was my passion. I loved it. It was so much fun. I loved working. I had a great time working full time. I looked forward to going there. It was awesome.
Did you have any management responsibilities in that role, or was it more of an individual contributor type of thing?
Minor responsibilities. I mean, I didn't have any people under me per se, but I was responsible for. I mean, I would be there alone from 6 till 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes I'd have to do the audit shift, and so the whole property is under my management. You have to make the decision. I couldn't call anybody if there was a customer complaint. We had, I think, 84 rooms when I left. And you have a full house. That it's a great property. The occupancy rate there is it was always full, and you just have to deal with it. And that was a great experience. I'm so grateful for that.
What was the first full-time job you took outside of college?
So this is where my entrepreneurial life really begins. So my brother David, I finished my junior year. I was on course to graduate in between my junior and senior year, so I was going to take some summer school classes. I was going to finish early from Santa Barbara. And my brother calls me and goes, "Hey, I want to make you the president of this company that I'm starting in Mexico." Now I'm 19 years old, and I hear the president of this company in Mexico, and my eyes opened up, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be fun. Mind you, I don't speak Spanish, and I had no idea what he wanted me to do. And what it was a company that would supply the display fixtures for Tower Records, and this particular project was for Argentina. My brother was the joint venture partner for Tower Records in Mexico, and they had asked him to oversee the Latin American operations, and his first task was to open a store in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And so as he's going through the budget, he finds a huge opportunity to save money on the racking of this store. And so he asked the company if he could do the racking, if he could set up a company and do that, and they let him do it. And he asked me to come down and manage that project and do that project. So here I am, fresh out of my junior year of college. I put in my resignation at the hotel.
No knowledge of Spanish.
No Spanish. And no idea of industrial design or retail or merchandising. I mean, I'm a kid. And I remember I went to an outlet store. My sister Wendy took me to the outlet store at Camarillo and helped me buy some clothes that can make me feel like somewhat professional, because I had no idea. I mean, I'm telling you, I had no clue what I was getting into. So I remember, and I get to Mexico City, and I'd been there once before to visit my brother. And it's just this, I'm from Grass Valley. I'm from this town of like nobody. It's like, and here I am,
huge city, going
to like the second largest city in the world. The pollution, it's a concrete jungle. Like I don't know how else to explain this place, especially 20 years ago. And I remember going to the house and David getting me settled in, my brother David getting me settled in his house, and we go to a meeting like the next day. And here I am wearing my khakis and my polo shirt, thinking that's what I'm supposed to wear. I remember it so clearly, like vividly. It was the worst outfit you could imagine. And we go to, I think we went to like McDonald's or Burger King with the guy that owned the factory. And then we started talking like how we're going to set this up and what I would do and how I would start learning, the process of the design of the display fixtures and what were the challenges? I mean, so here I am, 19 years old. I don't speak Spanish. I'm in another country. I don't have any friends there, which is probably a blessing because I would have been distracted. I have to learn industrial design and machine programming and whatnot. I have to coordinate the manufacturing, the import of actually material from the United States to Mexico, hardware issues, because the way these are knockdown display fixtures, how we're going to package all of these, how we're going to export them. So we started a new company. I had to get it certified to export. And then what are the requirements to import it into Argentina? And then the end of the project is, I have to teach these guys in Argentina how to build these racks and go down there. And then, at the same time, I decided I was going to continue my education. So I'm still going to college. I negotiated with my professors to let me just show up for midterms and finals.
Finished yet?
I hadn't finished yet. So, I mean, that was something that I was going to do. So I'm doing all of this, and it was the greatest experience of my life. That particular project, there were hiccups, but I had learned, I think just from being around business, there's always going to be something that goes wrong. It's up to you to determine if it's really a big issue or not. And you just get through it, just work through it. I think the ethics my parents taught me of working hard, just nothing fazed me. It was like, there was nothing could, especially at such a young age, right? You're so naive and ignorant. You're just like, whatever, this just must be what it's like. So I guess we just do it, right? And that's what we did. And we turned this summer project into a really good business. We ended up manufacturing until Tower's demise all of their display fixtures all over the world except for Japan, because that was a separate entity. But we made them everywhere. And the UK, I went to Colombia, we sent them to the Philippines, to Dubai, all over Mexico, the United States, and I got to go and set them all up at a very young age. That was my experience. It was amazing.
I'm curious about, obviously the language more than anything else. How long did you stay in Mexico City, and how quickly did you learn Spanish?
So it took me about 6 months to be able to have any type of conversation. I mean, I learned the basics really quickly because I did take Spanish in high school and in college. So I understood the structure of the grammar and I knew some words, but I had to learn technical Spanish. I had to learn about, processes and manufacturing, logistics, things that I didn't know about in English, let alone in Spanish, right? So it was really interesting. I learned how to use AutoCAD. I was taught by somebody at the factory, and he taught me in Spanish how to use AutoCAD. So that was just the way to do it. A complete immersion. And it was I've been in Mexico off and on for 18 years. These last 2-3 years it's been almost 3 years now, actually, been in LA. for the project that I'm working on now.
And did you manage people when you were down in Mexico? Was that part of the assignment, or was it more of a individual contributor helping out your brother?
Well, so there's several projects when I was there. So the first project, the one I'm talking about, we called that company Rack Max. A brilliant name, because we racked their stores. So funny. It didn't matter because we had the captive client. I mean, I was selling to Tower Records. So in that company, I didn't have any employees. I coordinated with the maquilador, which is the manufacturer that we used in Mexico. So just coordinating between his staff and then the different groups in that project. But in 2000, 2001, I started working with Tower Records in Mexico. And that was really my first leadership position where I had employees. As I mentioned earlier, my brother David was the joint venture partner with Tower Records, and he wanted to sell it. He was done with it. He was starting a new business in entertainment management. He was managing music artists in Mexico, and he was done with the Tower Records thing. He saw, what was happening. This is before, Tower had gone bankrupt and the end of the music industry or the retail music industry as we know it. And so he asked me to come on, and he said, just keep it afloat while we sell it. That was my mission. Just keep it afloat. You're not going to build the business. Just maintain it and don't lose money. Let's just keep it as it is. And I'd never managed, anybody before. Really, I mean, I'd worked with people, but I'd never managed anybody. So it was that was it. That was my first attempt of dealing with people.
What were some of the early management lessons you took away from that job?
That one really, and it's interesting because my Spanish wasn't great. So I really had, and this is probably by accident, I really had to learn to listen and listen to the whole thing. I couldn't even begin to form a thought of a reply of anything because I had to really understand what they're trying to tell me because I didn't, you know what I mean? So, and that's an incredibly valuable lesson.
Learning how to listen.
Even outside of business. I mean, just learn how to listen and, fully absorb the context of a message being conveyed to you and reading body language and everything. So I could really understand. And it was a challenge for me because of the language, but that was a great lesson.
How would you say your leadership style has evolved over time?
I've become less involved and I've learned to step back because most of the businesses I've been involved with, and this project in particular, which is the largest one I've done so far in terms of the responsibility and the revenue that we generate and the work that we do, you learn, when I came into this particular project of Distroller in Mexico, it was a very small company. It was my ex-sister-in-law. She was married to David, my brother David, and it was just a project, a hobby kind of for her. But she had a nice business, at least in terms of like she was selling stuff. But it was, and it was very small and chaotic. So I was very hands-on because I would always do my things. I was always like very entrepreneurial and always doing everything. So I knew how to do a little bit of everything, kind of that jack of all trades syndrome. And I didn't have to delegate. There was nobody to delegate to. So seriously, that's just the way it was. And so as we grew, I learned the importance of hiring people that knew more than me in their respective areas and to really count on them. And then my job becomes I'm actually directing the business. I'm not operating the business. That's been a big deal. And even now that we're doing a new project of expanding our brand into the United States, where we've gone back to this startup mentality, I have the experience of operating a business, and that's what we're doing. But at the same time, I've learned to delegate very quickly to junior people because I need them to make the mistakes now when it's not important. The mistakes they can make now can't be catastrophic. I've got 2 stores and we have an online business. There's nothing they can do that would be catastrophic. So I want them to stumble and learn and kind of become entrepreneurial on their own. And that's how my style has become. It's, come to me for help. I'm your coach. I will guide you. We will communicate constantly. I'm here for you, but you have to learn on your own. I think it makes strong leaders within the organization.
How do you decide when it's time to micromanage or when to stay out of their sandbox?
If we're stuck on something, just stuck, I get involved and move us forward. I think that it's incredibly important for the organization, no matter what we're doing. We can't be stuck on anything. There's no reason to be stuck. I think that's a really dangerous thing to happen, no matter what it is. I mean, it could be from, the launching of a new product to, a campaign of some sort or hiring somebody. You can't get stuck because then you can get used to it and then you can get stuck on other things that are more important. So I get involved when I see that we're in a lull. I'll just take over and do it right now because we're small. Once we get bigger, that's not going to be able to happen. But that's how I step in right now, and I'll do some of that micromanagement. How many employees
are you now, Daryn, in the U.S.?
I think I'm 23 or 24 because of our stores. I have a couple people in Mexico City still that just to take advantage of the economies of scale there. And that's where the home office is.
Are you still operating in Mexico with this business?
I am not. I'm on the board of that entity in Mexico, so I'm an advisor there. But I do not participate really. I'll step in if they need me. I mean, there's a few projects I've helped them out with.
Is it the same business model? I mean, are they doing the same thing there as you're doing here?
It is. So the business model in Mexico, the one that we put together, has three primary models. There's the brick and mortar. So that's direct to consumer. We have business to business, where we will sell to the likes of Walmart and whatnot. And then we have a licensing model, where we will license the intellectual property of our brand to third parties to where they can sell business to business. In the United States, what we're doing right now, as of today, it's 100% direct to consumer. We're going to keep it like that for a while, and then eventually we'll go into other models.
What are your thoughts about building a company culture?
It's a great question, and I think it's incredibly important because the culture for me, it's always been, you're with these people most of your day, most of your life, and at the end of the day, we have to fit in and be able to work together to reach a common goal and help each other. So that's very, very important. I think, and that's one of the jobs of a CEO. We have to establish the culture of the organizations that we're managing, because I think that if you don't, and I see a lot of examples of where like the culture fails and the organization just doesn't work. So yeah, very, very important.
What would you say is unusual or perhaps unique about Distroller?
We're weird.
I love your email signature, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
you do just about everything, from what I gather.
Yeah, we're a weird company. We're irreverent, we're disruptive, we're innovative. And it's funny because we deal in the toy space in this market. That's really where our focus is. So we have a bunch of, here I am, a 40-year-old guy. I don't have any kids of my own yet. Hopefully one day I do. And I'm making toys for 6-year-old girls. And that right there is a weird thing. So to understand my consumer, it's not an easy thing to do. I have to build a team that understands the consumer. But it's more about like, this is an incredible challenge for all of us. And we're in it for the challenge. And we're really in it for the passion of what we're doing. We're influencing children. And I think that's a huge responsibility, And we take that with, great care and very responsible about how we do it. But at the same time, we are irreverent. And there's some stuff in there that some people may not agree with what we're doing. And we say, we don't educate, we merely give our humble opinion. This is not a company that is for everyone. It's not a company for everyone to work at, but the ones that do love it, they really love it. And we have a great following because of that.
Well, what do you look for when you're making bets on the people you invest in to join your company?
Character. It's really important. I have somebody that I can trust. Being trustworthy, I don't know. It's a huge thing. I mean, because we delegate. We do delegate now. I do need to make sure if you're going to tell me it's going to be done or you're going to do something, you will do it.
Do you interview everybody that's joining the company at this stage?
No, not at the retail level. I'll get involved for the managers at the store right now just to help out until my retail operations manager gets a better grasp on it because he's a younger guy. So I'll help him with that. That's one of the things I'm doing to coach him is, through that interview process for managers. And then, if I'm in the office for other positions that we're looking for, I'll help, but I try to stay away from that. And anybody that directly reports to me, I will interview.
How do you interview and hire? What do you look for?
I just want to get a feeling, and I got to be honest with you, this is my biggest area of opportunity. I don't think I'm a very good interviewer, honestly. I tend to base my decisions on chemistry a lot of the time, which honestly has worked out pretty well for me. But sometimes I don't read the person well. But I think in general, I don't know. I think I need to take a more formal approach perhaps to the process because I'm more about, I want to make sure you fit in here and that you want to be here and you understand how hard this is going to be. So usually the interview process, what I do is I'm the one that's doing a lot of the talking. And because I want to explain to them what they're going to have to deal with. And then I try to read their reaction like, okay, did I scare you out of this? Because it's not going to be easy.
Or did you get it? Yeah.
Or did you get it? And are you in love with it? And now I want to hear you tell me about what you thought I just said. So, and it depends. I mean, because those positions where I get involved with, I mean, we're talking at this stage of the game, these are people that are going to be with us hopefully for a very long time that are higher ups in the organization. So that's how I go about it.
Well, Daryn Fillis, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you. We do have one last question we ask all the CEOs, and that's what career and life advice you'd give to someone who has their eye on the corner office, or perhaps wants to be an entrepreneur like you and build their own business.
I would say be prepared to invest a lot of time. I don't want to say that you're going to sacrifice because for me, this isn't a sacrifice. I love what I do. I'm incredibly passionate about what I do. I would say, and I have to give this advice to myself all the time, is make sure because you love it so much, don't make this the only thing you do with your life. There is a beautiful world out there that needs to be seen and conquered and just enjoyed. Make sure, you have to make sure that you take time for yourself away from all the gadgets and turn off everything. And what I do is I just try to throw in a triathlon every once in a while just to stay fit. And you can't take your iPhone with you on those things. So it's really important to have that personal time. And if you can do that, and you can understand that you're still going to dedicate a lot of time to the corner office, I think you'll have a great time. It's for me, I wouldn't change anything. I'm incredibly happy with what we're doing.
Well, Daryn, thank you again. Really appreciate your time and effort and sharing your journey with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Hanley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.